Hey guys, it is Tuesday, January 12th. I don't have anything really big to go over, but I do have a laundry list of little things. So, more than anything, I'm just trying to keep the communication going, and it's been about a week since my last video. So, first, reminders, if you haven't done your IHG Rewards Club training, please do that this week. I will be checking next week to make sure everybody's done it. If you have any questions, the instructions are kind of in the memo, but I see pretty much all of you, so feel free to ask me, and I can definitely help you get in there. Okay, handful of things. One is, although we typically have a house person on the A shift, they usually work 8 to 12, 9 to 2, something like that. It is very, very important that all of you at the desk are checking bathrooms, are checking, the floors, especially with us getting a little more snow. We definitely need to stay on top of the floors. Every shift should be mopping. Sometimes a shift lucks out, and the house person or Lori takes care of a lot of the mopping. But there's no reason, that the front desk can't help on that too. But absolutely on B shift and C shift, we need to make sure that the floors are clean because they're going to be generally messier through the winter. We don't want to wait for the house person to come in either if we happen to notice that the floors are dirty, because if you have someone checking out at 8 o'clock in the morning and the house person hasn't mopped right there, it's going to look gross, and everybody who stays deserves to have a clean space. Obviously, this is different when we're really busy. We tend to have other things that we need to do, but I'm pretty aware that, it may only take 5 minutes to grab, a Swiffer mop, or even just the mop from the back, but you just get it wet. You don't need to get the whole bucket together, and just hit that area, where guests are walking more frequently. Also, when you're checking bathrooms, making sure that the toilet paper is stocked, that there's no major, messes or whatever in there. Definitely making sure there's soap, and then sanitizing, especially in the evening time when there isn't a house person. We want to make sure that we have sanitized everything that's being touched. Again, we probably lost it a little bit because we're getting used to it, but make sure we're doing elevator buttons, door handles, things like that the guests are going to be frequently touching. Next is out of order rooms. I did bring this up in one of the last videos, but it's still happening, so I'm going to keep reminding you. If you are putting rooms out of order for housekeeping, meaning that housekeeping was not able to clean them that day, so we need to push it to the next day, we need to make sure that the dates that we're setting them for are the same date. So today is January 12th. If I was setting out of order rooms for housekeeping, I want those rooms back in service tomorrow. So two things are really important. One is that the dates both say January 12th. So that means that when it becomes January 13th, those out of orders are kicked back into the system like normal. And number two is making sure that the room is set to return as dirty. So you need to be mindful whenever you're setting an out of order. When this room comes back, do I want it to be dirty or do I want it to be clean? We've had a handful of issues where we have checked people into dirty rooms because our out of order was set to come back as clean. And if that happens, it's in your system as clean, so it's telling you can rent it. So we want to make sure that we're really mindful of that when we're setting out of orders. Next, I had mentioned this in the previous videos, but it isn't quite happening yet. It is now January. Business is getting back to normal, fairly normal, at least for January. It is super important that we get back to kind of our rules and boundaries that we had before COVID. A big one being uniforms. I have seen all sorts of things coming out in uniforms lately, from pretty much everyone. And we've got to synchronize a little bit. Even if we aren't working with somebody else, we definitely want to make sure we're looking professional and things, and I kind of don't feel that that's what's happening right now. For the ladies at least, you should have a gray cardigan, and that is the appropriate uniform. I do permit you to wear shirts under your blue shirt. However, As of right now, I'm not going to say no, we can't have them showing, but that could come up in the future because it does look kind of tacky if we can see the shirt underneath the uniform shirt. So you can wear a shirt under your uniform shirt, especially as cold as it is. It's not a bad idea. The gray cardigan is what you should be wearing on the outside. The only other approved thing at this time is going to be a black blazer if you have one of your own. And when I say blazer, it has to be a blazer. Not a cardigan, not a loose. It has to have a collar. And that goes for other gray cardigans. Those are not approved either. Just because when we open up that spectrum, a whole lot of things start coming through. Some look okay and some don't, and it's really hard to differentiate to you guys what you can wear and what you can't wear. Hoodies are not okay. Jackets are not okay. The only exception is if you're a night auditor, or it's later in the evening or early in the morning where it gets really, really, really cold, you can put on an overcoat type jacket. I think as long as I've been here at these hotels, that has come up where sometimes it's just so stinking cold. But it needs to be during those times where it's obvious to guests that it's abnormally cold. Otherwise, we need to stick to the uniform. Another part of this that's really important is the uniform states in the handbook that dress pants are required, so business slacks. I know for myself, the style and what's available in stores has changed pretty dramatically, so that makes it really difficult to stick to those slacks. Back in the day, you could walk in anywhere, and get a pair of black slacks for, $10-20. They're not very easy to find anymore, and a lot of times the fit on them is terrible. So I am going to say that if you are wearing a fitted pant, it cannot be a spandex legging. That is not a work-appropriate uniform. For example, if you would never see me in it unless I'm wearing a dress, you guys shouldn't be wearing it either. I went to Ross and got a pair of like a thick fitted pant, and it was, maybe $10. Macy's actually has some really inexpensive stuff. I just got a pair for like $25. And they'll last a lot longer than some of the other stuff, but we really need to look professional up there, and I've been seeing a whole lot of things that are different. Yoga pants, not okay. Genuine leggings are not okay. Obviously the style now, we have these business leggings, and those might be okay, but you can usually tell by how thick the pant is. When it comes to shoes, we've been across the board as well. For right now, I'm just going to ask that your shoes are black, and that we are not wearing an obvious tennis shoe. So that's like, your Converse or your Vans or whatever, unless they are solid black. If you are wearing an athletic shoe, I know sometimes standing on your feet, an athletic shoe is really helpful. I do expect them to be solid black or pretty darn close to it. I think I've only seen a couple incidences lately where I was like, ooh, those shoes are not right. But it doesn't happen very often. So I may look at that one on an individual basis, and if I happen to notice that you're wearing shoes that don't work, maybe we can just talk about it. So that's uniform. If you have any questions, please let me know. Next would be something that came up recently. We had a third-party reservation, and then the comments that were put in there by a desk agent said guest pays. However, it was not a guest pay reservation. It was a prepaid reservation. So the clerk checking them in did not, they saw the note. They thought that the other person knew more than they did, so they were kind of giving the guest a hard time. This led to a complaint on the desk clerk that was checking this person in. However, it really wasn't her fault. We need to be really careful about the notes that we're putting in there. So, easy rule of thumb for everybody, whether you see a comment or not, if the rate ends in the letter G, it is guest pay. Otherwise, it is a prepaid. End of story. This is on a third party, so if you see that in the top right, Hotels.com, Expedia, Get a Room, Booking.com, Travelocity, any of those are third-party reservations. The other indicator is in the reservation screen on the bottom right. There is, I want to say it says rate suppress or suppress rate. If that is checked, what that's telling you is that the rate would not print on a registration. And it's also telling you do not want to give the guest the rate. And that means that it is a prepaid. That means the guest does not know the rate because that's not the rate they're paying. Easy way of putting it, the money that a third party pays us on a prepaid is not the money that they're charging the guest. They're taking their commission before they give us our part of the rate. On a guest pay reservation, we're paying the commission after. So that's a difference on those. Last one, because I'm running out of time and these videos tend to get too long. 2 parts. One is when we are extending a guest who's checked in, so they added another night. 3 things are very important. One, we're obviously going to change the number of nights on the reservation. Easy. 2, you want to make sure before you let them leave the desk and before you do number 3 that their credit card authorizes for the additional time. We've had several incidences lately where we either had to hunt down a guest because they extended, but their credit card wouldn't go through. And we have also lost money on a guest that extended, and then they just left the hotel and we didn't have an opportunity to get that additional money from them and their credit card declined. I think that's only happened once and it was a few weeks ago, so not recently, but we did have to hunt down some guests last week, and it just makes us look very unprofessional, and it also causes unnecessary inconvenience to the guest. So it kind of looks like we're fighting with them because they don't understand our processes and that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that when a guest tells us they're extending, we run their credit card for the additional night or nights right away. And then the number 3 is that you need to make sure that you're making their keys for the new amount of time. So again, if we're doing it in that order, when you change the number of room nights, if you look at the rate info or whatnot, it's going to tell you how much money they should have on their card. And then the third one is that we're making keys. So we should not make keys until we have money. And finally, which kind of goes along with that, being that we're not using an actual bucket anymore, we're not really doing bucket checks. I'm actually going to do a second video after this because it might get a little bit long, but we need to still be doing what us old school hotel people call bucket checks. And stay tuned for the next video. That'll go into detail on that. Thanks.